My plan for this video is to show you how to make this. I'm going to attach the rivets on here like I did here, and I want to show you from start to finish. So some of the things I have ready: my hole punch system. You'll use whatever hole punch system you had planned. These holes I planned for 18 gauge, so I have my 18 gauge fine silver. I want to ball up the ends of my rivets, so I have my torch, my little butane torch, a bowl of water, and some cross-locking tweezers with a wooden handle. I think I'll also get my other tweezers. For pulling the piece out of the water, and a paper towel to dry off the rivet. What else? Okay, so since I'm using ball rivets, I will have to use one of these steel blocks that has divots in it for when it comes to making the opposite end of the rivet. So you'll just use whichever one you have. Since I have three, I can choose which one out, and I'll probably go with this one. Some flush cutters for cutting the wire, and well, I think that's all I'll need. So let's get started. Oh, magnifying glasses. Okay, so I can see what I'm doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of my fine silver wire, put it in the cross-locking tweezers, and I'm actually, this won't be the greatest view because I'm shooting straight down onto my workspace, but just so that you can see all the steps in real time, I've already shown you the video of how to make these ball head pins, so you can watch that for the details. Okay, turn on my torch out of the way, get the bowl out of the way. Got my head pin. Oops. Dry it off. Okay, so I'm going to thread it through. I'm going to start with the middle hole. I've got 3 holes here. Just makes sense to me to start with the middle. And actually, before I thread it through, I can go ahead and Sharpie. That's another thing you want. I can go ahead and mark where my first rivet hole will be. I'm going to put the rivet in just to clear out the hole, because it had like some gesso. And oh, there's the design I didn't use on the back. So I just cleared out the hole so that I can make a mark. And I'm going to try to make sure that it's even with the other earring in placement. Didn't I? Oh, I cleaned out the wrong hole. Okay. Cleaning out the middle hole. I have to make sure that these other two holes are actually on metal. So that looks like about it. Did it mark? Yep, I have a little black dot. I don't know if you can see that. Little black dot there. So with that little black dot, I make sure that I'm grabbing the tape end, which is the 18 millimeter, the smallest one. And, oh. Okay, I need to go get my actual glasses. Be right back. I should show you my filming contraption, and then you might understand some of what the noises are, because I've got this huge frame thing set up over my workstation so that I can film what I'm doing. But trying to lean in really closely to see what I'm doing sometimes, because I don't have the best eyesight, means I keep hitting my visor on the frame that's holding the camera. This is probably off camera, but I have to be able to get the light to see where I'm punching the hole. So okay, so I have that in the right space, I believe. Just double checking. Okay, so I have that where I want it. Boy, that looks awful high compared to the other one. You know what? I'm just going to double check again, because not only do I want these holes to be on the metal, I kind of want, I want the earrings to be even. I want the circles to be in the same place. And it's worth taking the time to get your first hole in the right place, because once you have that first hole, there's no going back. All right. So let's see how different. It's in a fairly different spot. Okay. Let me just go into the light to do this. I'm just punching the hole, or getting it lined up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I really wish I had better vision. Okay. Allen wrench. Okay, probably the hardest part of the whole thing. Anyway, so I have my first hole, and I've got my rivet. So I thread it through the front of my colored piece, and then I thread it through, make sure I'm at the front of the earring. Okay, so this is where it's going to go. So since I am not making any riveting, hammering stuff on this side, I'm going to use my just one spacer. Let's get this side. One spacer, so I know how much to cut off. So I can just put this down, put that on top, make sure everything's level, get my flush cutters, cut that. What did we say? We're going to use this block? Okay. Oh, riveting hammer would be nice. Or chasing hammer, actually. So I did not have all my tools ready. Pick up these three things. Put the rivet in the divot. Make sure it's in there. Since I'm holding it with my left hand, I don't want to have to reach over the box, so that's why I turned everything. Okay, now I'm going to gently, remember I'm just letting the weight of the hammer. I'm trying to keep the metal level so that I'm not hammering on any edges of the metal pieces. Trying to go around. Can you see that? And yes, now I do realize that the other side of my piece shows on the back of the earrings, but I'm not going to worry about that. This was a demo piece. Okay, on to the next two. So now what I want to do is this piece is movable like that to an extent. So I want to make sure I put it in a position where those two are lined up. So I can take either one, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead, and that is a hole in the first piece, not in the second piece. So I'm going to go with my 18 gauge, and I'm going to go into the existing hole and start to wind down. So you'll just take your hole punch, whatever hole punch you use. You'll go into the existing hole, and then complete the process by punching through the back hole as they're lined up, or the hole in the back plate, or making a hole in the back plate. So can you see there is now, it goes all the way through both pieces. This one doesn't yet. We don't want to punch that hole yet. We want to get two in place to hold everything together. So I take another piece of 18 gauge fine silver. Dry it off. With a paper towel. Now I can feed it through these two holes. Okay, it's in place. Get my little mini block. Now, sometimes you may find when you're riveting, either with the ball end rivets or even without, that you'll put your piece in the divot of your block, and other rivets will like be on top of the block. Like for example, right there, I can feel the other rivet hitting. So sometimes you just have to work around your circumstances. Okay, guitar pick. All right, I put that over just so that I know how much to cut. And did you want to see again? Let me show you. How little is needed. You don't want too much. If you have too much, you're going to have a floppy rivet. Too tall of a rivet, when you start hammering, it'll just bend over. Okay, we're going to hammer this one down. I'm flaring it out. You can see this is flaring it out. Once it's flared, I start working a little bit on going around the circumference of the rivet. Okay, good. Now I'm going to punch my final hole, and if we had more than one to go, I could actually go ahead and punch them all. Once you have 2 rivets in place, your piece is not going to go anywhere. But you always want to do 1 rivet, 1 punch, 1 rivet, second punch, second rivet, then you can do other punches. You don't want to punch your holes ahead of time. So again, I put the hole punch in the existing hole. Let's see if we can. So put it in the existing hole and then continue down to punch through the back plate. Okay, I've got my final hole ready to go. So we repeat, put the 18 gauge wire in the cross-locking tweezers, light the torch, ball up the end, which as you can see takes seconds. Turn off the torch, move the water ball, get rivet out with tweezers, dry it off with a paper towel, because you don't want anything wet near any of your steel tools, your hole punches, your riveting blocks, any of that stuff. You don't want anything wet there, so we always make sure everything is dry. Okay, feed it in through the front. Got my 3rd rivet in place, get our little block. And again, this is the one from Gwen Youngblood's riveting system. This is the one from Eurotool, created by Eugenia Chan, I think is her name. And this is just a standard doming block. Just to be different, I could do this one here. Set my measuring tool, make sure I'm using the flush end of the cutters down towards the metal. Cut. I've got my my little bit of wire sticking out, and I'm going to start hammering. I'm just moving around, making sure I'm in the divot. And as a matter of fact, see, if I have my other rivet over this part, it's kind of making my metal at an angle. You can't really see it, but it's kind of like at an angle. So if I slide this until that rivet is off the steel block, then I have, I can put my metal parallel to the thing. And that's one thing, when you start getting rivets that are really close to one another, you will find you have to work around that a bit when using your bench blocks. Again, I'm just using the weight of the hammer, going around the circumference a little. The tweezers were making a bell sound on the glass, on the water cup. Okay. So, 3 rivets on the back, 3 ball ends on the front, and I have a pair of earrings.